welcome to The Social Capitalist with host and Never Eat Alone co-author Tal Raz. Social Capitalist events are sponsored programming of myGreenlight, an exclusive online learning platform for relationship development skills. For more information, visit our webpage at www.mygreenlight.com. Enjoy the event.
Everybody, welcome and hello. We've got a great one today. I'm very excited about it. My name is Tal Raz, and I'm the co-founder of myGreenlight and host of the Social Capitalist, where we're bringing you analysis and advice from the people we consider the leaders of this new era of social business. So, exciting show that we've got planned for today. And I want to remind everyone that the formal interview will go until about 12:30. I mean, we're not, to the exact second, but then we'll start asking your questions. And just type in your questions and comments into the chat box as they occur to you, and Kabibi will queue them up. Now to our guest. She's been a monk, a CEO 5 times, and a venture capitalist, with Google listed as one of her investments. She wrote a well-received book named Rules for Renegades, made it to the White House in both the Clinton and Bush administrations, and she did it all as a high school dropout. Today she's a highly sought-after executive coach. Christine Comaford has led a remarkable life, undoubtedly, with what we hope are some remarkable lessons learned. Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tal.
All right, there you are. So, let's start out with the unorthodox path that you took without a formal education, unlike probably nearly all of your clients, right? What did that unorthodox path teach you about people, how to deal with them, their importance, that all of these others who took a more conventional path didn't learn?
Okay, a great question. So here's I guess if I were to summarize it now in hindsight, what I had to figure out at a young age was that rules were general guidelines, and that there was a way to navigate through the world of power, business, money, etc., social scenes that people weren't talking about, which is why I wrote the book. Because I find that once we understand how to navigate the world truly is our oyster. We really can create whatever it is that we want to create. We can be connected to the most powerful people. We can launch amazing projects and get support. So since I had that unconventional background, that actually was a blessing in disguise. At the time, I didn't really have choices, or I didn't think I had choices, but it was a blessing in disguise because it opened my eyes to the possibility of creating whatever it is you want.
Well, can you get a little bit more specific about that? I mean, especially as it's distinguished from other people. Why don't other people learn some of the lessons implicit in that going through college and university and so on? And why did you learn that?
Yes.
That valuable lesson?
Okay. I think we're not really taught how to think. We're taught a bunch of information in college, and I did end up going to college for a couple of years, but I didn't graduate from college. I dropped out of high school, negotiated my way into college, and took a couple years of college and dropped out of college to start building businesses. It was too slow. So I wanted the real life experience. So what I found first is that they don't teach us how to think. So, rule number 1 is everything is an illusion. So pick one that's empowering. Don't just go through, gosh, what is everybody else doing? I should do that too, because that's not true. And I think also, an MBA is great, but a GSD, gets stuff done, is a lot more valuable than an MBA. If your brand equals results, you will always have a job. You will always have the possibility to sponsor projects, and you will always be able to get what you want in the world. They don't teach us that sort of stuff in school. You learn that sort of stuff through just the school of hard knocks, if you will, and I want people to learn that sooner so they can create more of what they want in their life. Entrepreneurs are always coming to me saying, what company should I start? And I always say, problems plus pain equals profit. Find a problem that's really painful, and build a business to solve that painful problem. That's how I've built the 5 businesses that I've built and sold, and those are the companies usually that get the best financing. There's a painful problem that somebody is removing. So those are, I think, a couple of the things. And then I think also, I know we're going to talk about networking later, but just when we take an actual, seriously, kind of a systematic approach to networking, makes all the difference in the world. We don't just show up randomly at a cocktail party. We actually have a plan when we walk in the door. So we meet the right people, we get immediate rapport, which we'll also talk about, and then we can take that 5-minute conversation and leverage a lifetime relationship out of it. This is the sort of stuff you don't learn in school. You know, this is the sort of stuff you learn from mentors and from life experience and from modeling people who have been successful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and we are going to hit those topics hard. Before we do, I want to ask you. You know, this is especially a profound topic today when all of us are making major transitions in life, and you've made some very drastic ones. And if you can go from monk to businesswoman, there's no transition that can't be achieved, right? So,
yeah.
So tell us what you learned those years. Why you decided to leave, actually, specifically, and what you learned in the transition that you now apply to other transitions later in life.
Okay, so what I learned leaving the order, no longer being a monk, is that what you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, for starters, the main reason that I had to break my vows after 7 years was that everybody, again, it was a structure, just like colleges, just like the world is, just like high school is, just like businesses. It was a structure in the monastery of what we do is we all want to transcend. And I kept going, wait, we're going the wrong direction, though. You know, aren't we supposed to go in and down, you know, instead of up and out? I don't want to transcend who I am. I want to find out who I am so I can then truly transcend and not just, you know, meditate a bunch, get really wise, but still be totally screwed up as a human being. So I ended up leaving because I felt that we weren't going in and down and dealing with who we were, all of our challenges, our blind spots, our challenging behaviors, you know, expanding our vision. I didn't find that that was happening in the monastery, and I knew that for me to really be of service, because that's what matters to me most, is to really serve, to make a huge difference on this planet before my time is up. And I felt that we were sort of glossing over some of the hard stuff in personal growth. So that's why I had to leave. And what I've learned is that the world really is my monastery. I learned so much from human relationships. I get to equalize myself with others, right? That's the most important thing when we're trying to build a business or influence others. We will put people above us, and that's just not true. You know, so we can equalize ourselves with others for starters, which is a core tenet of Buddhism. We're all the same. We all have one unit of self-worth. No one's better than anybody else. So as we equalize, then we can exchange. And when we exchange ourselves with others, and I do this all the time in business, if someone is mean or challenging, it's just because they're in pain. And so you think, okay, when have I been in pain before? Okay, yep, I've been in devastating pain before. That's possibly what they're going through. And when we can exchange kind of our pain for their pain, we can then talk to them far more effectively. See, we put a lot of energy into resistance, human beings, I find. We resist. We resist because we want something else. We resist the current situation that we're in. That doesn't help anything. You know, if we can actually look at what we want to create and who we have to be to get that, which is Chapter 1 of Rules for Renegades, then we can find, I mean, I'm on Christine version 11 right now. I mean, 11 really profound versions of myself. And in Rules for Renegades, you learn exactly how to reinvent yourself. And we should be doing this all the time because the current you maybe can't have that next experience, but the you that you're going to create can. Does that make sense?
We should note, though, we should note that in all of these 11 reinventions and iterations of Christine, you mentioned in your book several moments in your life when you realized you needed to look the part, that you didn't feel, even in your new iteration, new invention of yourself, you didn't fit into certain environments. You even felt a little bit inadequate amongst the company you were in. So how do you accomplish, and right now at this point in your life it seems hard to imagine you lacking any confidence whatsoever, but how did you accomplish creating an image of yourself that others received well, and you accomplished that confidence without coming off as inauthentic?
Right. Okay. It's service-oriented, Tal. It really is. So just like in rapport, we step out of ourselves and we say, what does that person need to see? So Monday, for instance, I'll be in New York City on Monday. I'll be in a room of 40 executives, 40 CEOs of mid-market companies, forget me, okay? I'm not relevant. What's relevant is what can come through me. What do those guys need to see? What they need to see in talking to the folks who are sponsoring the event and just listening is, they need to see someone who's conservative, someone who's got some really good answers, as to what's happening in the world right now and how they should be able to manage change, and someone who's going to help them walk away with like 5 tips so they can manage the radical amounts of change in their organization today. So yes, I don't like wearing conservative suits. I will wear one. That will make them feel safe, I will bring rapport tools, which we'll talk, I don't even know if the camera can see it. We'll talk about rapport tools. We'll talk about how to step out of ourselves. So I always look at what does that person need to see and hear to receive my message. Then, yes, I chameleon into that for the purpose of my interaction with them so they can feel safety, belonging, and feel that they matter.
Wait, you mentioned you chameleon into that?
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, so I will use the terms that will make them feel safe. I will wear an outfit that will make them feel safe. I will use rapport techniques that will make them feel safe so I can be of greater service. Because the rest of the time, I just want to wear jeans and a T-shirt, okay? And so to be totally authentic in Christine-ness, I would be wearing jeans and a T-shirt. But it's not about me. It's about serving them. And I think we forget that. We think that to be authentic, we've got to always be saying, here I am, here I am. But in the world of service, if you really seriously want to serve, my friends, it's about what does the person need to see, hear, feel in order to receive whatever your gift is. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're being authentic to our purpose, not authentic to our favorite fashion statement, because that's all transitory anyway. If your purpose really is be of service, then do it. Be of service. That means be who they need for you to be so they can receive the gift that you want to give.
Does that qualify as one of the tools? You talk about your expertise in human behavior modification and how you apply these techniques to business. Does that account as one of those tools? And what I'm most interested in is on your website. There's a teaser that promises to use neuroscience to sell better and actually apply to all of these areas. Explain that to us.
Do you want it? Do you want the
Yes.
Want some techniques? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, I don't have a slide to show you. I'm going to show you a picture quick like a bunny and then grab your paper and notes because we're going to dive in. Okay, so this is a picture I showed you earlier. I don't know if you can see it. So these are the levels of rapport, okay? So I'm going to go through the levels of rapport, but I'm really going to focus here because this is where the money is, okay? So basically, we know once food and shelter is handled, we need to feel safety and belonging. So as an executive in the world, your most important thing is to help people feel safety and belonging, or otherwise they can't hear what you're saying. You can't get anything done, and any initiative is pushed forward. So the 6 things I want to talk about are what are called meta programs. Roger Bailey created these, brilliant guy, and meta programs really are the lens through which people see the world. So we all have 6 primary ways. There's a lot more than that, but 6 primary ways that we see the world. So write these down. The first one is towards or away. Each of these meta programs is polarized. So somebody either is like, yes, I want to launch new initiatives. I want, goals, forward motion, etc. That's a towards person. An away person is risk mitigation, let's be cautious, let's not go crazy and jump in. Okay, so the CEOs often, the marketing people, the sales people are towards people. Often the CIOs, maybe the accounting people, maybe HR is away. So if you're trying to get a CFO on board with a certain initiative, you say, hey, you know what? Let's be real cautious. Let's not go in crazy. Let's just ease our way into this. Let's make sure we've got all the I's dotted and T's crossed. They're going to feel a sense of rapport with you. Now you're not this crazed, sales or marketing or other type towards person who wants to mow them down. All right, the next one is options or procedures. Options people are like, wow, here's all these possibilities. We could do this and that and that and that, and everybody's all excited. Procedures people listening to that are getting freaked out. Procedures people are thinking, okay, I just need to know step 1, step 2, step 3 because I don't want to mess it up. Don't give me all those choices. So if you're talking to an options person, you want to say, oh, yeah, and we could do this, and yes, Bob, I love all those ideas. Let's figure out which one is best. If you're talking to a procedures person, you say, okay, Sue, yeah, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do step number 2, step number 3, and step number 4. Are there any steps I might have missed? You want her to feel safe. Next, and I'll tell you some real-world examples in a sec. Next is general or specific. The easiest way to find out if somebody is general or specific is to ask them how their weekend was. How was your weekend? Oh, it was great. I had a really good time. That's probably a general person. How was your weekend? Oh, we went boating, and then we went camping, and then we washed the dog, and then we made snow angels. That's a specific person. The general people want the net. If you're a specific person, one of our clients, the COO, was talking to the CEO in very specific terms, the CEO called me up and said, I don't think this guy's going to work. He just rambles on and on and on. And I had to talk to that COO and say, whoa, what's the meta program of the CEO? Oh, it's general. Great. Now the COO just goes in, gives the bottom line in a toward options general approach. The CEO loves him. Couldn't stand him before. Okay, next. Reactive, proactive. Just like it sounds. The reactive people want to kind of wait and see, and then they're going to make some choices. The proactive people are like, damn the torpedoes, they charge ahead. Sometimes the proactive people can dive in too quickly without doing their homework. Next, internal, external. The internal people gauge their success, gauge how well they're doing internally. They have an internal barometer. So a person who is internal often will be IT. Technology guys are usually like, look, I know how to do this. I did a good job. I got the code done, etc. External person wants lots of external validation. Salespeople often are external people. They don't meet the quota. They don't feel good about themselves. So if you have a lot of internal people in sales, they're not necessarily going to think quotas are that important. Okay, so be careful with that. I'll go into real-world examples in a sec. So internal, external is the 5th meta program. And the last one is same and different. So sameness and difference is really how much sameness do people want? How much change avoidance do they want? And difference is how much disruptive, let's change everything, do they want? And here's what's cool, Tal. 65% of an American workforce wants same with exception. So Coke, Coca-Cola. Remember when New Coke came out? New Coke came out. It was a disaster. People were like, Coke was good. Why'd you take my Coke away? I don't want new Coke. Total marketing disaster. What did work for Coca-Cola? Cherry Coke. Oh, it's Coke. It's the same. Oh, with an exception, we add some cherry. Coke Zero. I get it. It's Coke. Just the bad calories are taken out. So when you have a change message, you don't say, woohoo, we're going to change everything. You just lost 65% of the people. They're freaked out by that. You say, you know what, guys? We're going to keep doing all the great stuff that we're doing, and we're just going to remove all the stuff that's really irritating. Same with exception. So let me give you one example recently. We had a CFO and a CEO who weren't communicating all that effectively. The CFO was going into similar to that COO example I gave you a second ago. The CFO was going into way too much detail, and he was really, really, really procedural. And he was matching some of the meta programs of the CEO, but here's what he missed. Meta programs are contextual. So the CEO, when he looks at business, he's toward, he's options, he's general, he's proactive, he's internal, and he's same with exception. That's in the context of business. Now, in the context of finance, the CEO is not strong financially. He feels, frankly, a little uncertain in that area. So his meta programs in finance are away. He doesn't really want to deal with it. He doesn't want to make a mistake. Away, procedures, general still, reactive, external, and same with exception. So you guys probably caught how different his meta programs are in business building overall versus the world of finance. So once the CFO realized this, and I was coaching him, he's one of our coaching clients, as is the CEO. So once the CFO and I kind of worked through this, the CFO now does two things. Thing number one, he speaks in the CEO's meta programs in the context of finance. Hey, George, okay, so We really want to be cautious with our finances, so here's the procedure I'm going to follow. This is the net. These are the two choices. Here's all the external sources that are validating the making of this particular choice, right? Because he's external in the financial realm. And it's what we're doing, what we've done in the past. We're just taking away the bad stuff and we're adding some new good stuff. One more component to this. We have to also look at the sensory system of the human being. Most of us fall into visual, kinesthetic, or auditory. The CEO in this case is very kinesthetic. He feels. He's a very feeling person. And you can see when he starts to shut down. So he would get overwhelmed in the past. He would hear from the CFO. He would shut down. And he would sort of look down and just kind of spin and feel insecure and uncomfortable because he didn't know what to do next. So once we understood this, I said to the CFO, hey, you've got to stick a visual under his face to break that loop, that kinesthetic loop. So now he sticks a visual under his face and he says, hey, George, here are the choices we have about what we're going to do with our budget. There's like 2 columns. It's really easy. It's really short and sweet. And the CEO now doesn't get stuck in that kinesthetic loop. Okay, that was a lot of information, Tal. Questions, and was that clear?
Yeah, I think it was clear. I mean, I think we could spend a couple hours just on these different programs. So I want to wrap it up in a way that allows us, given the limited time, to go on to some of the more sort of areas focused on social capital and networking, but, so people can pursue it. The idea basically is that, and let me just try to kind of recapitulate it. These meta programs help you categorize different kinds of behavior, which once you internalize, it allows you to become more aware of how people operate and adjust your behavior accordingly. Is that the basic idea?
Yes, the basic idea is the net is you adjust your behavior to speak in a language that they understand and they are comfortable with. Forget your own. It's about them, so that they can actually hear what you're saying.
Okay, and do you have any kind of worksheets or anything that people can download so they get a better sense of the different programs and what they are?
No, these are going to be in my next book, but if people send me, if people go to ChristineComaford.com and they go to the contact page, we'll see what we can get people. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move on. There is, let's see, you have some wonderful, you have this kind of consultant's approach to a lot of this, so you package it just as you've done with these meta programs in ways that are immensely teachable, and networking is no exception. As a way to get into that, talk about how you found, you first got yourself into the White House, and then we'll sort of expand out of that.
Good. Okay, so the number one thing is palm up. You guys can see my hand. What most people do is palm down networking. What can I get? They go to a cocktail party, they're trying to grab stuff. That's palm down. Palm up networking is find out what somebody needs and help them get it. You're going to get yours later. The universe has a perfect accounting system. So if people simply change their networking approach to be palm up, you walk around at a cocktail party, you ask people what business they're in. Wow, that's cool. How'd you get into that business? Everybody has a great story as to how they got into their business. Wow, what's your ideal client? Oh, I might know some of those guys. I'll follow up with you next Tuesday, And now we did 2 things. We did palm up networking, and we showed that we want to build relationships. We know that we're going to get later. We're going to give first. And the second thing is that we started to forge in that person's mind that we follow through. We make our brand equal to results, and we use palm up networking, and those 2 things alone will endear you to so many people and will really propel your career. So I got into the White House by helping a group called TechNet in Silicon Valley to sketch out some technology initiatives that we could explain to the U.S. government that would then enable the U.S. government to get on board with the Internet, okay? This is back in the day. And I went to the Department of Defense, and I'd been invited to the Department of Defense to give a speech on how we need to move our information systems to intranets, distributed computing, so we can serve the American public better and do government that costs less and works better. And by the time I actually arrived back in San Francisco, I gave the speech, I flew back home, I already had a call from Al Gore's office saying, can you get back on a plane and come back to D.C., and help us figure out the government's technology strategy. So it all started by donating tons and tons of hours to TechNet to help palm up, to help make a difference, which then got me to the DOD, which then got me to the White House.
In Never Eat Alone, we have a special section devoted just to Clinton, who I find fascinating and I think maybe the best networker of all time. I mean, the way he processes and kind of manipulates social capital is unbelievable. I mean, he's a scientist around it. So can you, and I know I've seen in other places you've broken it down a little bit about why you think he's so good and what you observed in your own brief encounters with him that just kind of blew you away. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Okay. So for starters, when he's talking to you, you're the only person on the planet that exists. He is.
How does he do that?
He's totally present. He's looking at you. You can tell that he's not thinking about what he needs to do later. He chooses to be totally present and to be totally focused. Okay? Hillary's like that too. Hillary Clinton has a crazy, amazing memory, and I'll tell you a story about that in a second. But he's totally focused when he's with you. Okay? He is very much palm up, what do you care about? Okay? How can I be of service to you? And then he follows through amazingly. I mean, I was talking with him when I first met him. I was talking with him about entrepreneurship in America and how we really need to turn that around. And, I see bad things coming if we don't foster more entrepreneurship. Within like a week, I had a letter from him saying, okay, where's the proposal? Let's follow up on this entrepreneurship thing. Same thing happened with me with Dave Peacock, president of Anheuser-Busch. I spoke with him after a speech that he gave, talked for a few minutes. He said, you know what, I want to continue this conversation. Within an hour, he had emailed me his private email address and his private phone number. I mean, this guy follows through. So the high presence, the palm-up networking, and the rapid follow-through made a huge difference for Clinton. And then, of course, everyone thinks he's really charismatic, and it's because he's really paying attention. And most people aren't present. I know you know this, Tal. I do this too. It's true. I'll be talking to somebody on the phone and I'll be checking my email. Shame on me. I'm not being totally present. People can feel when you're not totally present.
Well, I go into that a little bit because, it feels to many people as a touchy-feely notion. But it's clearly not. It's clearly profoundly important. So, I just think that it's hard to teach and also to talk to people about it within a professional context. So can you talk about, how it's connected to focus, how it's charisma, and how you get, these people who are not present at all to bring a little more presence into their lives?
Okay, excellent question. So, Tal, focus and presence to me is the foundation of leadership. When you are focused and present and you choose to be exactly here, exactly now, there's a couple things that happen. First of all, people feel that you're aware. They feel that you care. And let's also think about social media and why social media is so popular. It fulfills this deep need for people to be seen. I mean, seriously, everybody on the call, think about this really honestly. When you grew up, did you really feel seen and acknowledged as you were a kid? Okay, probably not. Okay, in your daily life, do you feel like people are really deeply, profoundly connecting with you at every moment? Probably not, right? The more input we have coming in, the more phones and email and texting, etc., the less present we are. And when we can just stop and be totally present with somebody, we're going to have a much shorter conversation. We're going to be able to foster leadership because we're not going to be telling somebody what to do to get them out of our face. We're going to be asking them, well, what would you do, Bob? Well, you own that area. What do you think could happen? What could go right? What could go wrong? You're inquiring instead of advocating. We have this advocacy culture where we're telling people what to do just to get them off of our checklist to move on to the next item on our checklist, and people aren't items on a checklist. So we're not cultivating this culture of leaders. We're cultivating a culture of order takers. And then we're complaining that our people are order takers, and we created that culture. So the more present we are, the more we can do inquiry. And yes, it's excruciating in the beginning, but after about 3 times, that person is now going to go off and lead on their own. And maybe they'll check in with us, but they'll be out of the order-taking business, and we'll be out of the order-giving business. It comes down to stopping, breathing, and really focusing on exactly what you're doing at this exact time.
It reminds me a little bit of in some of my travels, in encountering what you might call gurus, especially within meditation, I've noted how it almost seems that they're not blinking when they're talking to you. They're so focused, and that creates such an incredible kind of a power and relationship where you're completely, absorbed in the moment and in whatever this person has to say. So I completely kind of relate to that.
Yeah. People want to be seen. That's why social media is so potent. People want to be seen, They want to know that they're not inconsequential and invisible.
You're using social media and connecting it to presence, which I think is interesting, and presence to kind of leadership and focus. You make another connection, which is to really kind of, it's a bad word, exploit, but no, let's say execute. To say that you need that focus to be channeled through clarity and the importance of being direct in both your own vision and the way you communicate. Once you've used presence to sort of pull someone in and establish that relationship, you need to know what you're talking. Can you talk about the 3 domains where clarity is practiced and how we can get better at that?
Yes. Okay, so for starters, the whole point with clarity is explicit versus implicit communication. And here's where we get in trouble. A lot of us will be explicit to a degree in our communication. Okay, Sue, please do this, 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 and this. But then we will be implicit in all the things that we expect her to figure out as she does those particular tasks. Then later we're disappointed or she fails because we weren't explicit. So please, everybody, consider how often is your communication explicit, very clear, exactly what I want you to do, and how much of it is implied or implicit. Well, they would figure that out. Well, they wouldn't necessarily. They're not inside your head. So clarity of maps is really important. And a clarity of map means we're going to go from here to here, and here's exactly how we're going to do it. So we're going to go from A to B, and here's what everything is in the middle. Or maybe A to D is a better analogy. We're going to go from A to D, and here's what B is exactly, and here's what C is exactly. So we need that clarity of maps, We need the clarity of the communication, which I mentioned before. We've got to be really, really clear in being explicit in our communication. And I think also, lately I've been really looking at clarity of how we present ourselves. There's clarity in like 7, 8 domains. But if we can be a reliable person because we have a consistency and we manage our emotional state, we will further build safety. When we aren't clear, people often feel unsafe or emotionally disengaged. And I think this is a big part. The more I'm kind of researching this, why do 71% of American workers, people in the American workforce, feel emotionally disengaged? 71%? That is so shocking. And it's the same. It was the same number last year. So it's holding consistent. Why do all these people feel disengaged? Well, there's low clarity, there's low presence, there's low accountability because management often doesn't set up accountability structures, and we should probably get to that. Or at least we can send people to a place where they can learn about that. Let's do that. And then for the accountability, why should I be accountable? Are there rewards if I'm accountable? Are there consequences if I'm not? I can't tell you, Tal, how many cultures I go into that don't have accountability structures, rewards, consequences, presence, or clarity. All these are like the building blocks to truly have leadership. So I'm just going to tell people to go to one place because I really want you guys to get this whole accountability thing. It's huge. Just go to ChristineComaford.com and then click on the resources menu across the top and then go into operational efficiency. Go into that section and you'll see a needle mover tutorial, needle mover template, needle mover examples. Needle movers are like goals. They just work better. Okay, so that's where you can learn more about accountability.
Okay, terrific. I see that we're about 12:35, so we've got to start moving into some of the questions that the audience has been asking. But before I do that, I want to, I promised a few lessons in the teaser, so I want to go back to something we were talking about in terms of the networking, which is, you've made courting and gaining credibility with powerful people you've broken it down very well. And one of your blog posts is entitled "Let's Stalk Steve Jobs and How to Get a Meeting with Any VIP." You got to tell us about that.
Okay, so it's not that hard to get a meeting with any VIP. Kind of the quick recipe is what you want is you want 5 minutes. You want to ask for 5 minutes, and in exchange, you're going to give 5 hours to their favorite nonprofit. So you've got to do some homework. Okay, when you first connect with them, send a letter. I prefer a letter. I prefer a letter that's and sent via FedEx. One of my clients, a huge high-level executive at Deloitte, he just used this approach. He finally got through to someone who's been trying to reach for 3 months. So you figure out what it is that you want. Okay, I want 5 minutes of advice from Joe Blow. Okay, so then you send a letter, 1 page or less, don't ramble on, saying, wow, I really admire the accomplishments that you've made, Joe Blow, in your life. I want to do that too. I would love to get 5 minutes of advice. Don't ask for anything else. Ask for advice. It triggers their ego and their emotional state. I would like 5 minutes of advice from you. In exchange, I'll give 5 hours to your favorite nonprofit. I've noticed you've done great things with American Cancer Society, blah, 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 blah. So short and sweet, okay? Send it via FedEx and then start calling their assistant. The FedExes and the phone calls to the assistant continue until you get the meeting. You call the assistant at the beginning of the day or the end of the day when they're more likely to take the call. The letter has to be heartfelt and genuine, okay? Really heartfelt, really genuine care. Make this letter a work of art, okay? Great. So you get the meeting, bring a timer. Show that you're respectful. Set the timer for 5 minutes. Show that you really get that, you've got prepared questions that you want to ask them, and after 5 minutes, you're going to leave. Timer goes off. You start to leave. They always keep you there longer. And generally what happens is now you've forged an alliance with someone because you really came to them for advice. They got to be big. You were small, right? They got to be big and up on the mountain and giving you advice, and now they're going to follow up to make sure that you took their advice.
That is it's an ingenious method of sort of tactic within what we call kind of leading with generosity.
Yes, leading with generosity. It's like palm up networking. Beautiful. Yeah.
So, I'm going to move to some of the questions that have been thrown out by the audience. You have a Rolodex of over 5,000 people. Are there any technologies or processes that you use to keep up with the people in your life? Any kind of organizational tips in the way you kind of manage your relationships?
Yes, Tal, you have to have a top 200. You do, or it'll make you crazy. Top 200 or top 50, right? Who are those people that I really need to stay in touch with? And those guys all get birthday cards. I need to get back into holiday cards. I kind of let holiday cards go for a while. But there's the top 200, and then there's the clients, and then there's the influencers as well. So figure out who those top people are. Now, here's the thing. These are people that you want to have a long-term relationship with. These are people that you want to be of service to. These are people that can be of service to you, because these are people that you really feel have a similar values and a similar mission. I mean, all the people in my top 200 want to make the world a better place. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that sort of stuff. So we've got to manage that. And then I don't have an amazing system. I wish I could tell you that I did. But with just those 200, I'm always trying to figure out, whenever I go to New York, I always do a search first. Who's in New York that I need to meet with? And if I have time, I'll meet with those people. Some people I only see every 5 years. I just saw a guy yesterday. I haven't seen him for 20 years. It doesn't matter. He totally remembered me, and he's like, wow, how can I be of service to you? I couldn't figure out why he wanted to be of service to me. And he reminded me that I had done something amazing for him 20 years ago. I hadn't even talked to the guy for 20 years, okay? People remember this stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
of course. From Martin Kurz, a member, myGreenlight, can you talk a little bit about exit strategies for networking conversations, when and how to end your conversation, quote unquote, correctly?
Okay, good. Exit strategies for conversations. I like that, Martin. Good. So I always like to keep them quick. If you've read my book on, I think, page 149, we talk about the drive-by schmooze. And the drive-by schmooze is a networking technique really good for cocktail parties and holiday parties, where you basically just zoom in. You follow kind of your intuition. You find out what somebody wants. You tell them how you could be of service to them. You jot a few things down, and you tell them, Martin, okay, great, I'll get back to you by Tuesday at 4 with these follow-up items. or gosh, I'll get back to you with some ideas by Wednesday at 5. You know, and not everybody you're going to have some help for, but if you ask the right questions, you will. You'll have a follow-up item for different people. Or, wow, I'd really love to introduce you to Joe Blow. He would be great for your business. I'll introduce you by next Tuesday. So the exit to me is the follow-up.
Is the promise of some sort of next action.
Yes, and that way you walk away, and the last thing they think is, wow, I wonder if he's going to follow through with that, which is why you have to. Okay, don't say you're going to, if otherwise you get negative brand equity.
You in your book, you refer to building a network as another type of family. Now, you know, if you have a family as dysfunctional as mine, it sometimes means letting some go. Does it mean that to you? And how do you deal with that? And do you have an opinion on bad relationships and how to handle them and you know, disconnect from them?
Okay, yeah, this is tricky, Tal. So what I've been doing is I've been combing through these 5,000 people, and I've been taking out the takers, because I no longer want 5,000 people in my Rolodex. I've decided I really only want about maybe 2,000, you know, people who are real givers. And, you know, I don't want takers in my Rolodex anymore, just because what's the point? They always call me up. They always want stuff. They're never willing to give. I seriously don't have time for that. There's so many great givers in the world. Why would I let that time go to takers? So takers are now being removed, okay? And I've actually had to be really direct with a few people where they've said, well, you know, I need this, I need that, I need that. And I've said, you know what, gosh, Sue, I can't help you anymore right now. I'm very happy to have been so generous with you in the past, but I am helping other people right now. Okay, that's one way to say it. Another one, which is a little more tricky, is, gosh, Sue, I'm really forging these mutual beneficial relationships, and I feel like I've given a lot. If you'd like to return that favor, here are the 3 things that I'd like, and then we can see where we can go from there. But, you know, it's okay, guys, to hold your value. You know, it's really okay to say, gosh, I only do relationships that win-win. I had a conversation last night, Tal. I was asked to be on the board of a really high-end conference company. And I was saying, well, I only do win-win relationships, so I hear what you're going to get from me, but I'm sorry to be so direct, but I don't quite understand what I'm going to get. And they hemmed and hawed, and I said, well, gosh, I would like, you know, introductions to 5 CEOs that you think I could really make a difference for. And they said, well, you know, we're not willing to do that. You know, maybe after you serve on the board for a year. And I was like, oh, got it. Okay, so this is going to be a palm down gig. I'm out.
Right.
I don't even start those relationships now.
You know, it's interesting. We have these social capitalists on, and these are people who have done very, very well and contribute or attribute a lot of their success to other people, to what they've learned from them, how they've conducted these relationships, and almost to a T. It's unbelievable how, and this is something that they learned later, and we've talked about it in the same way we just talked about it with you, that they came to a point where there was some hard line that they created in their mind where I'm tired of the people who create negativity or negative energy or aren't givers or whatever the articulation was, and I'm going to be because there's not enough time to deal with those people. So it seems like you've come to that as well.
Yes, and thank you for saying that, because, guys, there's this illusion that we have to be so nice that we actually give our value over. And you can be nice and professional and hold your value because you're valuable. You know, people don't just get to take your time. You know, dole out your time to people who you think will make a difference. And a lot more people will ask you for your time than you will possibly be able to give it to them. Because I remember I burned out at 40. I was just giving, and I gave so much that I was like flatlined and sick for 3 years. You know, learn from my mistake. Give where you really feel you're supposed to give. You don't have to give to everybody. It's not really appropriate sometimes. You know?
So is there a, just to touch into dabble in the gender area a little bit, and growing the family, there must be some differences with men and women in their approach and the challenge that they face. Can you talk a little bit about the specific issues for the women in the audience?
In the networking world, is that what you mean? And building your networking family?
Or you can say, there is no difference. I approach it in exactly the same way. But, we do get questions sometimes.
There is a difference.
Of people, like sometimes I'm afraid my generosity is going to be interpreted this way or that way, or,
right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for starters, women, sorry, but it's reality, so let's just face it. Women have to build their credibility constantly. I mean, I think everybody does, but women have to work harder. So the more you can align yourself with a powerful brand, it helps. It helps. I wrote for Business Week for a long time. I'm a Forbes, blogger now. Chief executive just asked me to start blogging for them. It really helps when you can align your brand with a brand that already has the credibility that you want, or has that market that you want to address. So we all have to be building credibility by association. Women, this is going to sound obvious, but it blows my mind. I still see it. Dress appropriately. Plunging necklines, short skirts, not appropriate in business. Don't do it. Okay, wear that when you're out on the weekend. You can only touch a man on the hand or the arm. Anything else, there's subliminal sexual undertones. Don't do it. Women come and they say to me, oh, this guy only wants to help me because he wants to sleep with me. And then I have to kind of break down, what did you do to make him get that message? So, yeah, a lot of the people that you're networking with, if you're a woman or a man, do it appropriately. Talk about their kids, talk about their family, talk about what matters to them. Bond on what matters to people. Don't bond on flirting. There's nowhere to go from there. Okay, it's a family. Flirting with your family is not appropriate. And then I think also make it really clear what it is that you're looking for. I want to land 3 new clients that are in financial services businesses. Do you know anybody who serves those businesses, or do you know anybody who's in those businesses? What would you like to get? Then you guys have a shared goal, and you can be helping each other. Did that help? Was that what you were thinking? I was trying to make sure I got it.
Actually, I think it's brilliant, the clarity with which you answered that, because sometimes people soft pedal it or they don't want to get into that, and I think that's very honest and good advice. So, we are essentially almost out of time. I'm wondering, you came so well prepared. Are there certain things we haven't touched upon? I know that you have some great little teaching protocols and ideas that maybe we didn't touch. You want to hit those and anything that we didn't touch upon yet?
Yes. Okay. So the big thing is, everyone's starting to think about the next year, and what do we want to achieve this next year? And I want everyone to do a little homework assignment, okay? So just get some quiet time in the next week or so and sit down and write down the 3 things that would change everything for you in your business life. What are the 3 things that would change everything for you? Those are the needle movers. Everything. That's why I don't like goals, because goals, you achieve them, you feel great. You don't achieve them, you feel lousy. But sometimes our goals don't really change our life fundamentally. So what are the 3 things that would change everything in business? And maybe there are 2, okay? Write those down. And then in your personal life, what are the 3 things that would change everything? For me, I want more personal retreats this year. I want at least 7 personal retreats where I go out into nature, or I do a silent yoga retreat, or whatever. I need to have at least 7 of those. That's going to move the needle for me next year. So list what those 3 things are. And the personal ones are really what's going to feed your soul and help you evolve and grow as a human being, so you can then serve in the world more effectively in your personal life, in your business life. So figure out what those needle movers are, those 3 big things that would change everything for you. Then go to ChristineComaford.com/resources. Go to the section under operational efficiency, read about needle movers, lay out your needle movers, and then please get an accountability partner. And you'll learn more about that on our site as well in the resources section. And the accountability partner, really the point is you're going to tell your partner every single week, use the weekly reporting format. It's right there on the site. Okay, do the needle mover stuff and the weekly reporting. Send that weekly reporting to your accountability partner each week. That way you can cop to what you said you were going to do and you didn't, and why. And maybe you're doing too much stuff that doesn't move the needle. Okay, so we need those structures, because that's how we can grow and have a little buddy to be growing with us. And when you look at the resources page, I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing? All those resources on our website are free, because I believe in giving first. Okay, that's what Tall's about. That's what this whole show's about, right? So look at, how are you giving first? How are you putting stuff out there so people can enjoy it? and not extracting anything in exchange, okay? Knowing that it's going to come back to you.
I love the idea of the needle movers. That's great, because the goal talk can get oppressive.
Yes, yes, thank you. And with the needle mover at all, you have a target, which is what you want. You have a minimum, which, hey, if everything goes wrong, at least you still get the minimum. And then you have a mind blower, which is, woo, party down. So you're going to achieve one of them. And that's what keeps your momentum going. Yeah.
Well, we're getting a ton of questions, but unfortunately we're out of time. So, maybe I'll follow up with you and see if you have any ways to respond to some of these questions. It's just, kind of lit a fire under our audience. You've been great. Thank you so much. I want to express my gratitude for taking the time to teach and share with us from an extraordinary life and career you've created for yourself. I think that's fantastic. Everyone who's watching or listening to us, thank you all. I'm looking forward to your feedback. You can connect with me on Twitter at Tal Raz or on LinkedIn. You can connect with Christine, and you should, because she has a tremendous amount of repository of great stuff on her resources page. So go to her site, which is Christine.com. Is that right, Christine?
ChristineComaford.com.
ChristineComaford.com?
Yeah, it's on the slide there, guys. And check out my blog on Forbes, too. Just go to Forbes and type in Christine Comaford. So Thank you for the opportunity to be of service to you today.
Keep doing so much great work. Thank you, Christine. Until the next time, keep connecting, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us. For transcripts of this program and a schedule of our upcoming events, please subscribe to our blog at blog.mygreenlight.com.